Ever wonder how some people seem to bounce back from trauma while others get stuck in a loop of pain? Let's dive deep into the stories of a few adults who faced some heavy stuff in their childhood and found their way to healing. These aren't just tales of resilience. They're packed with insights into the therapeutic methods that actually made a difference in their lives. Picture this: a kid growing up in a chaotic household. Maybe there were arguments, maybe there was neglect. This child grows up feeling like they have to fend for themselves, emotionally and sometimes physically. They carry that weight into adulthood. But here's the kicker. Some of these adults find ways to navigate their trauma and emerge stronger. How? That's what we're digging into today. Take Sarah, for example. She grew up in a home where love was conditional, performance-based. If she got good grades, her parents praised her. If she didn't, she felt the sting of disappointment. Can you imagine that? Living your childhood waiting for approval like it's some kind of life or death situation? Fast forward to adulthood, and Sarah found herself dealing with anxiety and a fear of failure. Therapy was like a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters. But not just any therapy. Sarah started with cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which is all about changing negative thought patterns. She learned to challenge those inner voices that said she wasn't good enough. It wasn't a miracle cure. It took time. There were days when she felt like she was sinking into that familiar darkness. But with each session, she began to recognize her worth outside of achievements. And that's the crux of it. Therapy isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. What works for one person might not work for another. That's why we see people like James, who turned to MDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. He had experienced trauma that left him haunted by flashbacks. The traditional talk therapy wasn't cutting it for him. EMDR helped him process those memories in a new way, reducing their power over his day-to-day life. Imagine sitting in a room, eyes closed, while a therapist guides you through a series of eye movements. It sounds a bit odd, right? But for James, it was new. He was able to confront the memories that had him tied in knots and start to untangle the feelings attached to them. The difference? He stopped feeling like a victim of his past and started reclaiming control over his life. But let's not gloss over the fact that societal and cultural factors play a massive role in how trauma is processed and healed. In some cultures, discussing mental health is still a taboo. You've got entire communities where people are expected to suck it up and move on, and that can lead to generations of unresolved trauma. In places where mental health discussions are more open, like in some Scandinavian countries, we see a different approach. Their emphasis on community and support can create an environment where individuals feel safer to seek help. The communal parenting style, where the village raises the child, can mitigate feelings of isolation that often accompany trauma. It's real to see how these cultural frameworks can influence attachment styles and mental health outcomes. Let's talk about resilience for a second. It's not just about bouncing back, it's about thriving despite the odds. Research shows that resilience can be cultivated through supportive relationships and positive experiences. Both Sarah and James found that their healing journeys were significantly influenced by the support systems they built around themselves. Friends, mentors, and even communities played important roles in their recoveries. Sarah, for example, didn't just rely on therapy. She joined a support group where she could connect with others who understood her struggles. They shared their experiences, and for the first time, she felt like she wasn't alone. That sense of belonging? Huge. It helped her rebuild her self-esteem and secure attachments, which were so lacking in her childhood. Now, let's shift gears a bit. What about interventions that can help rectify the consequences of early neglect? There's a growing field of research focusing on therapeutic methods aimed at addressing trauma's roots. One such method is trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, TFCBT.I. This approach combines traditional CBT with trauma-sensitive interventions. It's particularly effective for children but adaptable for adults too. It emphasizes creating a safe environment where individuals can express their emotions and process traumatic experiences. But again, it's not just therapy that's needed. Community support can amplify the effects of these interventions. When adults engage in therapy while surrounded by understanding friends or family, the healing process accelerates. It's like having a safety net that cushions the fall when things get tough. You might be wondering how technology fits into all this. In our increasingly digital world, many people find support online. There are forums, social media groups, and virtual therapy sessions that can provide a sense of community for those who feel isolated. But there's a double-edged sword here. While technology can connect us, it can also contribute to feelings of loneliness and anxiety if we're not careful. It's about finding that balance. Now, let's circle back to James for a moment. After he started EMDR, he didn't just stop there. He realized that healing is an ongoing process. He incorporated mindfulness practices into his routine. Meditation and yoga became part of his life, tools that helped him stay grounded and present. These practices, a deeper connection with himself, allowing him to navigate his feelings without getting overwhelmed. And here's where it gets interesting. The concept of resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about building a toolkit for life. In therapy, individuals learn coping mechanisms that can be applied in various situations. For Sarah, it was about recognizing when her inner critic was getting too loud. She learned to silence those voices and replace them with affirmations. For James, it was about grounding techniques that helped him stay centered during anxiety attacks. Now, it's important to acknowledge that the road to recovery isn't linear. There are setbacks. There are days when everything feels heavy and the past creeps back in. But those setbacks don't define the journey. They're part of the process. Both Sarah and James had their fair share of tough days, but they learned to approach those moments with compassion for themselves. So, if you're sitting there wondering how to navigate your own struggles or help someone else, remember that it's okay to seek help. There's strength in vulnerability. Opening up about your experiences can be the catalyst for change. Whether it's therapy, support groups, or simply talking to a friend, the key is to take that first step. But let's not forget the role of cultural frameworks in this discussion. Urbanization and technology have shifted how communities interact. In densely populated cities, people often feel more isolated despite being surrounded by others. The sense of community that once existed in smaller towns can get lost in the hustle and bustle of urban life. This can exacerbate feelings of loneliness for those dealing with trauma. Think about it. You're in a crowded subway, surrounded by people, yet you feel completely alone. That's a reality for many, and it can complicate the healing process. In contrast, in collectivist societies, the emphasis on community can provide a buffer against the isolating effects of trauma. The communal approach to child rearing fosters a sense of belonging that can help mitigate the negative impacts of neglect. As we explore these themes, it's important to consider the impact of global shifts on mental health. The rise of technology has changed how we connect, but it has also introduced new challenges. Social media can create unrealistic comparisons, leading to feelings of inadequacy. It's where individuals can feel more isolated than ever, despite having hundreds of friends online. So, what do we do about it? Well, awareness is the first step. Recognizing how these societal pressures affect mental health is important. We need to environments both in person and online that prioritize connection and support. Let's talk about some specific therapies that have shown promise in helping adults navigate their trauma. Beyond CBT and EMDR, there's also somatic experiencing, which focuses on the body's response to trauma. This approach helps individuals release stored trauma through physical sensations. It's about tuning into the body and understanding how trauma manifests physically. For some, this can be imagine being guided through exercises that help you notice where tension resides in your body and learning how to release it. It's a different angle on healing that acknowledges the mind-body connection in trauma recovery. Now, let's flip the script a bit. Not all healing happens in therapy sessions. Some people find solace in creative outlets. Art therapy, for instance, allows individuals to express their emotions through creativity. Whether it's painting, writing, or music, these activities can serve as good tools for processing trauma. Sarah found that journaling became her safe space. She poured her feelings onto the page, and in doing so, she discovered patterns and triggers that she hadn't recognized before. It was like shining a light into the dark corners of her mind. That act of creation became a form of therapy in itself, providing her with clarity and understanding. And there's something to be said about the power of storytelling. Sharing experiences can connection and empathy. When Sarah opened up about her childhood struggles in her support group, she was met with understanding and validation. That sense of shared experience can be incredibly healing. But here's the catch: vulnerability requires courage. It's not always easy to share your story, especially when it feels raw and painful. However, that act of sharing can be liberating. It can break the chains of isolation that trauma often brings. As we wrap up this exploration of trauma and recovery, it is important to remember that healing is a journey, not a destination. It's okay to take small steps. It's okay to seek help. And it's okay to have setbacks. What matters is the willingness to keep moving forward, even when the path feels uncertain. So if you're watching this and feeling stuck, know that you're not alone. There are countless others navigating similar struggles. Reach out, whether it's to a therapist, a friend, or an online community. Find your support. Remember Sarah and James? They turned their pain into power. They learned to navigate their trauma and reclaim their lives. And so can you. Embrace your story, seek the help you need, and know that healing is possible. And as we think about these journeys, let's also consider the broader context. How can we create environments that support healing? How can we open discussions about mental health? The answers may lie in our willingness to embrace vulnerability and connection. In a world that often feels disconnected, let's prioritize community and understanding. Let's build bridges instead of walls. Because at the end of the day, healing isn't just an individual journey, it's a collective effort. And there you have it. A deep dive into the stories of resilience and the methods that help people heal from trauma. It's a reminder that while the past may shape us, it doesn't have to define us. Keep pushing forward, keep seeking support, and remember that healing takes time. This is a journey worth taking.